when I turned 40, I didn't have a midlife crisis, but I had an awareness crisis, right? I had a family. I was a partner at PwC, and I was doing well, right? I was family man, making some inroads of leading people into different ways of doing things. But I said, it's not enough. There's something missing, right? There's something missing that I can't put my head around, but I know that I need something more.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Curious Tycoon Podcast. This is the show where ambition meets inspiration and where we explore the story behind people building legacies, leading with purpose, and defying limits. So guys, today's guest is living proof that life's toughest chapters often writes the most extraordinary story. I'm not here alone today, as you all know. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Thom Barrett to the podcast. Hello, Tom. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing very well, Chucks. I'm doing. How about yourself?
I'm great. The weather out here in London has been great today. I made a quick travel to Bristol from London yesterday on the train, and it was good. It was nice.
Good.
What part of the US are you based?
I'm on the East Coast, and currently we are in the midst of a heat wave. The weather is about 96 degrees outside. So I'm kind of glad I'm inside in an air-conditioned office.
Yeah, I can see it right there. I mean, we don't have ACs here in UK for some reason. Most houses don't anyway.
I know. Every time I come over there, I make sure it's not the summertime.
Yeah, I mean, you said you were just speaking backstage. You said you were in London just a few weeks ago. What did you come over here to do?
I like taking adventures, trips, expeditions, whatever you call it. And so I had gone through Europe visiting some friends and family, and I did it via the train. And I started in Salzburg, Germany, and worked my way across. And then I came to the Channel into London because I was on my way up to Edinburgh because I was doing a expedition, the outer islands of Scotland, Hebrides, Orkney, Shetland, kayaking. So I spent a couple of weeks kayaking those beautiful, lovely places. I tell you, have you been up there?
No, not yet, but definitely going to be there sometime.
Two things struck me. A, just the beauty. All right, rolling hills, the green, everything you expect out of the Scotland Highlands was there.
Yeah.
The other part that struck me was how old it is. I didn't realize. I was standing. You got Stonehenge in London or in Britain. They have their own circle of stones in different places on different islands. And so I'm standing in one of those, Cavendish, I think is where I was. And I'm listening to our guide speak, and he mentioned that those stones I was looking at predated Stonehenge, predated the pyramids, right? And I'm going, 12,000 years ago, people were living and operating here. And what struck me was, how come we never hear about that? I mean, You hear about the Scots fighting the English, you hear about the Vikings coming down and, pillaging and taking people back. But you don't hear about the people that have been living there for centuries, working their nomadic life, anyhow, that impressed me a lot and caused me to think a bit about the world in general and, things, but it was a great trip. So we, sea caves, kayaking into little lagoons, currents, big waves in the North Sea. So it was good. That's why I was there for.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I do like, I don't know if you've seen the show before, The Traitors. They have like a UK version and American version as well. Yeah, by the way, it's a very interesting show that I would recommend to you if you watch TV at all. The Traitors.
Creators?
No, Traitors, as in Traitors. Traito. Yeah. Yeah, it's a real, I think it shows in America on Peacock. Yeah, that's where you'll find it. And it airs on BBC here. Anyway, so I'm not going to spoil it for you, Check it out and then tell me what you think about it. But let's get these breakers in now. You're an explorer. Just give us a quick confession about your traveling. So, are you an overpacker or someone who moves in a minimalist fashion?
I try to, but I'm going to come back your point in terms of adventure, right? Because my adventure started in 1978, right? And I'm going to take it to a different point because I think we're talking about life in general, not just going out in the wilderness. I graduated from college in 78. That's why it's an important date. And I graduated with 2 degrees, a degree in computer science, and we talked about earlier, a degree in accounting, right? Didn't like it. I liked accounting because it was a job that I know I would have for a long time.
Yeah.
The technology one, I wasn't so certain because in 78, I mean, there was no technology. People didn't use it. It wasn't in business, wasn't being utilized. And I'm saying, well, this sounds pretty cool. I think it's going to be doing some interesting things, and I want to be part of it, right? And I thought that business is going to be the first people that gravitate towards using technology, and accounting is probably going to be the best place for it to be in the beginning. And so I went purposely with those two together, and then I went and joined an accounting firm called Coopers & Lybrand, the precursor to PwC. And so I viewed it as being an adventure because I had to create stuff. I had to find paths that didn't exist, right? In terms of helping companies install accounts payable systems, general ledger systems. But it wasn't just that, right? I said, okay, once we get that here, how do you leverage it? How do you monetize that? How do you take it to the next level of getting, to your point, a visual of what you're doing, right? A visual about where things are happening. And that excited me because that was all new path. There wasn't I'm going to pull this book down, I'm going to read about it and tell them, my clients, how to go about doing it. There were no books. And so that's when my adventure started, right? And then when I turned 40, and I think like most of us, or you're probably not 40 yet, which is good, When I turned 40, I didn't have a midlife crisis, but I had an awareness crisis, right? I had a family. I was a partner at PwC, and I was doing well, right? I was family man, making some inroads of leading people into different ways of doing things. But I said, it's not enough. There's something missing, right? There's something missing that I can't put my head around, but I know that I need something more.
Yeah.
And for me, that something more was pushing myself physically. Because I had been pushing myself intellectually, right? I'm pushing down this path that no one has been before, right? And I go, that's cool. Up here is great, but I want a challenge. So I started doing what some people would refer to as very risk-oriented activities. I didn't jump out of planes, but I helicopter skied, or I, went down to the Amazon in Ecuador and Brazil and kayaked amongst the crocodiles and went swimming with the piranhas. And I said, I need to get that part, right? So I can feel like I'm really challenging myself. And what happened was it turned into something else. And you can probably appreciate this. When you're working, you get so caught up in work that to get recharged is difficult. And if you've got a family and you go on vacation, you're not really getting recharged because you got all the kids to take care of, right? So I started doing these. I need to be away. And this is when phones didn't exist. So I need to go into the woods. And that's why I did it, because I didn't want that phone call that said, hey, Tom, you got to come in for a proposal. I said, I want to go far away. And so as the technology improved, so did my depth into the wilderness go. So that's kind of like a part and parcel as to, I've always been an adventurer. I've funneled it in different ways.
We're definitely going to get into your adventures. Just another question to just get us started a little bit. Resilience is built, not born. Were you always this adventurous, or did life just nudge you into it?
Yes, it was. I wanted to push it. I mean, I had been pushing it intellectually. Then I wanted to push it physically. And as a way of an example, my first trip was a ski trip in the Alps. But it wasn't just any ski trip, because we skied from Chamonix, France to Zermatt, Switzerland. And if you can think of what that trail is, that's going right through the Alps, right? And it wasn't like we were going to ski for an hour or two and then go down to a nice, comfortable hotel and then come back up again and ski. Nope, we had to physically get ourselves from that place to Zermatt, and there are a series of huts, but we had to learn how to climb, how to rappel, how to self-arrest, how to work yourself in a crevasse or glaciers with a bunch of people working through. And so it's like, whoa, man, I thought I was a good skier, but skiing with a 65-pound pack on, going down a pretty steep with lots of snow, that's a different ballgame. And so my first venture was like on the edge of, it's like, oh, okay, how do you top that? Well, you jump out of a plane. Oh, okay, how do you top that? It became that. But
from the corporate world to the Arctic wilderness, what earlier experiences did you have that has fueled this unrelenting drive for exploration?
Well, it's a complicated yet simple answer. The simple answer is when I was working, I was focusing on my left brain, right? And some creativity, but it was always funneled back to the left brain. When I retired, I wanted to do something up with my right brain, right? And I wanted to continue this wilderness notion. And so I wanted to be creative. I wanted to be challenging physically. I retired at 55 because I wanted to still be young enough and strong enough to do these kinds of activities. And so what the path I took was first about going from my left brain to my right brain, being more creative, finding venues that facilitate that. And when I first retired, I was building furniture, building kayaks, and then I decided that's pretty cool. Then I started to say, okay, I'm going to do that in the summertime, but I need to do my adventure side in the wintertime. And I love the winter. And so we just kept on going further and further north in terms of wherever the wilderness will allow me to go. And then I started incorporating kayaking with that, right? So it's like, all right, it's one thing to go up to, the polar regions, whether it's north or south, a hike, but it's another to bounce around those icebergs, those ice flows, the whales, the seals, the penguins. I mean, from a kayak, it's like pretty cool. So the activity became important too. So my path from being a corporate guy to someone now who finds enjoyment, excitement, recharging, to be in the wilderness, to be outdoors, to be physically active.
How has your perspective on success, fear, and fulfillment evolved since your diagnosis?
Well, so stage 4 cancer changed a lot for me. It forced me to accept things. Are you familiar with the Serenity Prayer? The Serenity Prayer goes something like, I don't know verbatim, but it goes like this. God, give me the strength to change the things I can, to figure out what I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay? Very simple.
I've had that prayer before.
Yeah. Very important, though, right? Because when I found out I had stage 4 cancer, I realized there were things that I could not control, right? And I've always been used to controlling everything. And when I went on these crazy trips, I controlled it. I mean, I did my homework. I did whatever I needed to do to train. I understood what I had to do. I had the skills. I had a plan. I had redundancies in case, something didn't happen. Uncertainty for me before the stage 4 cancer was something that I tried to mitigate. All right.
Yeah.
I needed to make certain that I had a plan that we could execute. And usually when you have a plan, it helps you get to success. Right. But when you're confronted with the fact that you have a terminal disease that you have no control over, right? That changes your mindset in terms of there is something out here I can't control. All right. Whoa. And then how do you then get up in the morning time when you know that something inside of you, right, is eating away and causing your time to be smaller? And unfortunately, having stage 4 cancer has some impacts, as does the drugs used to help manage it, in terms of your fatigue. And you just don't have that get up and go, right? Which is what you need. If you're going out in the wilderness, you have to have an eagerness, a passion, and a desire, right? Those things were removed from me, unfortunately. And so I had to channel into something different. And that's where I started writing, right? Because I had control over that. right? I can control the amount of time I spent. I can control what I was talking about. I can control how I was delivering it. I had control. And so part of my day now, I feel like I can control what's going on, right? And the cancer also made me aware that life is about acceptance, all right? It's about accepting your own skills. Okay, this is what I'm good at, or this is not what I'm good at. It's about accepting assistance. You look like a kind of guy that is a lot like me in terms of a provider. You don't ask for help, independent. You do what you have to do for you and yourself, right? Don't ask for help very much, because that's what guys do, right? That's what we do. And I realized I couldn't carry this any longer by myself, and I had to ask for help. And the help that was, yeah, I can't carry things anymore because my muscle mass is gone, right? So I have to have, you need to pick these stones up and put over here because I live in a house that requires a lot of maintenance. And so I couldn't do it by myself. And so that awareness of acceptance of assistance or help was a big one for me. And it realized that I never asked for help before because that would show a certain vulnerability, right? And I don't want anyone knowing that I'm weak, right? I don't want anyone to know where my vulnerabilities are. Screw that, right? And when you ask for help, boom, there it is for everyone to see. And what I learned was that's good, because if people see a vulnerability in you, they want to help. And then by wanting to help, they want to share too about things that they're, having a little difficulty with. And all of a sudden, connections started to occur, deeper than ever before, right? And so, I have a lot of friends. Now I only have like 3 or 4 who are actually engaging with me because I've shared with them my vulnerabilities, and our relationship has gone to a different level, right? I mean, it's, guys have a problem, right? We have relationships over events. Bunch of guys, we get together, we'll go to the football match together. That's what we do. We talk about it, we be with it. But if there's no more football matches, we don't get together, right? I had a guy who for 20 years, we traveled the world together doing remote shit, right? We'd go for 3 weeks, backcountry skiing. And, we talked, but we talked about strategy. We talked about what we could accomplish the following day. We talked about what's our pack structures like this. And then when I got the cancer, I had to stop doing that. And that friendship faded away because we didn't have the connection, despite the fact that we knew each other for 20 friggin' years, right?
We didn't have that connection. Yeah.
Exactly. It was episodic. It was transactional. And so this stage 4 cancer diagnosis, while at first it's like, well, this stinks, right? My life's over. I've learned that it's not over until I say it is, right? And I can have control over what I do every day. And so I feel stronger. I feel better. My relationships are deeper. My appreciation, my gratitude is deeper. And I think these are important things for someone who wants to live life fully and not just exist and kind of like go through the process. So you don't have to be sick to have this awakening, right?
You can have it.
It's an important point.
But I wanted to ask you, sorry, when were you first diagnosed? What year? How long ago was it now?
Oh, so I was diagnosed with cancer in 2015. Okay, exactly. But it was stage 2, right? And so I thought it was manageable, and it was manageable. 15, get diagnosed. I go through and get my prostate removed, blah blah blah, and then I go and ski for the wintertime, right? And I go and do my activities. I thought I was good. I took care of it. I got the diagnosis. I did the action. We removed it. End of game. On to life. And then a couple years later, I had remission in 2019. It came back. So I said, okay, let's do this. Let's do the chemo. Let's do the radiation. Let's do whatever you got to do. And again, I had 3 more years of going out and living life. And then last year, 24, after I'd come back from a Antarctic expedition, and that's a different story into itself as to, I was in Bolivia, I suffered from HAPE, had to come home. But when I did come home, because of that, I found that I found that my cancer had progressed to stage 4. I got tumors all in my stomach and stuff like that. And that's when things slow down. But then slow down. I'm still doing trips. Like I told you about, I just did that expedition trip up at, right? Yeah. And then in August, I'm going to Iceland, Greenland, and then through the Northwest Passage on another expedition to do some kayaking and photography of wildlife. Or
have you been to Montenegro for that yet? For kayaking yet?
I haven't been to Montenegro.
It's absolutely
beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Was there 2 years ago or something. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. And they've got this nice riverside. The water is the cleanest I've actually seen in my life.
No kidding.
They've got no
something amazing.
Yeah, the water is as clear as anything you can see. You can literally see the. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I don't know if you would have time to go there.
I gotta make time. This is another thing, right? You know, when you don't have much time, you make certain you use the most of it, right?
Yeah.
And the big things for me that I live every day now.
Yeah. You know, you've chasing the northern lights. That sounds quite poetic. Can you take us to one pivotal moment on that journey where your definition of joy or resilience completely
So for the first thing, that the title "Chasing My Northern Lights," it's sarcasm, because I went with the intent of finding and seeing the Northern Lights. And for 7 months, traveling up to the Yukon, the Northwest Territories, Alaska, I never saw them because I was always sleeping. No matter what, I'd try and wake up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd go outside. I'd get in my chair. I'm looking out. And next thing you know what, I'm sound asleep. You know, and then I'd be at a rest stop or I'm at a gas station the next day and people are talking about, did you see the Northern Lights last night? I'm like, no, they're asleep. What I found with that trip, I did that trip because I wanted to understand if I could survive this ordeal. Because I knew that I would be, for the most part, relying on myself. I wouldn't be engaged like I used to be with my friends and the activities that I had. And I thought if I went on a solo trip, not for a week, not for a couple of months, but for 7 months in the winter, in remote areas, that would really challenge me in terms of, if shit happens, will I be able to respond? Will I be able to work it through? And there were a lot of times where I had those experiences where like, what am I doing here? Right? I'm not qualified. I got the wrong stuff. But then when you get through it, you get to the other side, it's like, now I know why I'm here. I just proved myself that I can do this, right? And I get one example, one story. So I'm driving down this, it's snowing like a son of a gun. I'm in some road in the Yukon, dirt road, not much traffic, and a truck, a logging truck comes from behind me. You can see it lights, and he is just cruising, right? And I said, I better get over to the side so he can get by me. And I didn't realize how high the snowbanks were. Well, the snowbanks were way over my car. They must have been at least 8 feet tall, right? And it was snowing, so it was like whiteout conditions. So I couldn't tell the difference between where reality was in terms of what I saw and what reality was in terms of the snowbanks. My truck went right into it, and I got stuck. And this logging truck just ships on down, right? I'm like, I had to crawl out. And I'm looking out. I'm stuck in there. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get out of here, right? No phone service because there's no cell service around there. But I thoughtfully had a winch on my vehicle, and I brought 2 vehicles. I towed one behind me just for something like this. And so I hooked the winches up and extricated myself without anyone's assistance. And it was like, oh, okay, you can do it. A little MacGyverism, little, being creative, solution sets, and got out. So the trip was very helpful to me in terms of giving me the confidence that whatever the world wants to throw at me,
you can take it.
You can take it. Right.
Yeah, and I think, guys, that's the mindset that every one of you listening to Thom today should have. Whatever life is throwing at you, just know that you can take it. That's what we're doing here. And that's the kind of mindset that we wanna create. Thanks again, Thom, for coming on the podcast today. Really, really interesting guest. just moving on, you've said something interesting about winter, that it isn't just a season, that is a mindset that we can reframe. How do you teach others to turn life's harsh winters into their most meaningful growth?
So, thanks for asking that question. That's a great lead into, I wrote a book on this called Embracing the Cold. And I'll start off with my daughter, who obviously is my daughter, and so she's been with me on many of these trips. She says, yeah. There's no such thing as bad weather. It's poor choices of clothing.
Right, okay, yeah.
And she's right. She's right. Most people don't like going outside in the wintertime because it's too cold, right? Or I got to deal with snow and, it's like, all right, well then put a parka on. All right. Get warmer. And you can go out. And for me, I love the wintertime because there's no one out there. I can go down and camp or hike in places where in the summertime, it's not a hike. You're just in line waiting for the next person to move a foot so you can, is that enjoyable? No. But in the wintertime, when nothing's out there but silence, this white blanket covering the world, with the sun coming down and the crystals, radiating the light from it, it is magical. And if you're dressed properly and you have your backpack with all the things you need in terms of another clothes and water and blah, 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 it's enjoyable for me. You can hike, put your snowshoes on. Same thing, right? If you know how to ski, put some cross-country skis on and, go off in the back and in terms of a trail and stuff like that. So the wintertime is a time when most people close down. For me, it's when I open up.
Yeah.
I think that's an important concept because a lot of people get really depressed in the wintertime because, sun sets at 4:00, right? We feel, we just feel depressed because it's, it's just not it's different than the summertime when at 10 o'clock you still got light on. Let's go out and have a party or drink or something like that. And so it's important to get outside when you can so you get that energy revamped. And so people's viewpoints of wintertime being something that I don't go outside. It's like, maybe you should because there's plenty to do. And then, build yourself a fire out there. You can still enjoy a fire, campfire, just like you would in the summertime or the fall. And the activities are numerous, from skiing, of course, but snowboarding. On a snowmobile. Let's say you can't walk, so you get into a vehicle, dog sleds. There's all kinds of activities. But the first part is just, I love the solitude. I love the cold.
Yeah, and you're right. It's about preparation, isn't it? If you know it's going to be cold, then yeah, you cover up properly. And if you know it's going to be warm, you go right. And yeah, I think it's about preparation. It's about people.
And what you just said that's life, isn't it? Life is about preparation.
Yeah, because
right?
winter is going to come. Definitely winter is going to come. That the summer is come. So it's about getting ready for it. So I actually do agree with your perspective there. Your mindset is the kind of mindset I think that people of this generation lack. A lot of people in this generation, people just want things a lot easier, and everything to just be sort of set there for them in the table, and it doesn't actually work that way. You gotta go grab it, guys.
You have to go grab it.
Go and grab.
You know darn well that any story someone tells about the experience that they had, it's about them grabbing it. Yeah. It's never about, I was just sitting there and some guy gave me this and it was like, oh yeah, we had it's like, no, I had to go fight for it, or I had to go, I had to sweat for it. And then it was a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, true. You must have sacrificed. You must have worked, put in the work. Beyond your books, now let's just move on. Beyond the books that you've written, which is about 5 you mentioned, you have poured yourself into craftsmanship as well. Working, community service, Habitat for Humanity. How has these grounded tactile projects helped you stay present?
For me, living with purpose and intention are critical. And part of my purpose is to give back. One of my purposes is also to create things, to use my right brain in conjunction with my left. Right? And so these are natural extensions of that. I couldn't, when I was working, I was service oriented. I sat on boards, I coached my kids, and, but they were episodic in terms of my time and availability, right? And yes, I got some satisfaction, but not nearly the satisfaction I get today when, like for Habitat that you brought up, before the diagnosis, I would every day, when I retired, I belonged to Habitat, and we would build homes every day, just like a job, you know, show up for 2 days a week. So it's not a real job, it's only 2 days a week, but nonetheless, and you help build something for someone who you're working side by each with, right? Because they have to help build as well. And you're doing something for someone else that's going to live here with a roof over their head and something they didn't have before. And for me, it's one thing to do service, but when you can actually see the people that are benefiting from it, then you really are engaged. You really are invested because Jimmy's going to be living here or Sally's going to be living here. And I know Jimmy and Sally, right? And you create friendships. So for me, that was critical of service. Because I don't have any strength. Now I mentor folks with cancer in terms of how do you approach life? How do you deal with the daily issues of struggles of just trying to get out of bed, right? And the woodworking is still something that's very important to me. I don't build any big furnitures anymore because I can't carry it. But now I carve a lot. I carve masks, but it's still an outlet, right? An outlet of creativity, and that's important.
That's absolutely important and beautiful. Some people hesitate to travel, to explore, even start new things because of health challenges sometimes. What mindset shifts or advice would you offer to those holding back?
So you would think that if I don't have any strength, right, and I don't have motivation, how do you get outside? It's like, do you still go outside? And I do. You heard me. I still plan on my expeditions. But what I have accepted is that it's no longer for me how high I climb, how far I run, how dangerous the kayaking is, right? It's not that anymore. It's, I will go trekking down in the Patagonia, in Chile, and I will be with a bunch of people who are trekkers and they'll go out for their hike, and I will just stay where I am, and I will sit and I will watch. And they will come back and they'll have stories about, it was great here and great there. And I will have stories about, did you see the fox? Did you see the puma? Did you see this? And they didn't because they were so busy walking. And I'm just sitting here enjoying the moment, right? And as you get deeper into the moment, you realize that there's shit going on everywhere, right? The butterfly, the hummingbird, the fox. And so to answer your question more directly, I still do the things in terms of going to the locations I would have loved to have gone to, but I no longer do what I used to do. And I've accepted that movement not necessarily has to be defined as how far you can hike and how high you can climb.
Yeah.
Just putting one foot in front of the other and being in a different location. And that last is important. Exactly right. And you don't need to go to, Antarctica to be a different place. You can just go and, if you live in, if you live in London, then you can go to, the Isle of Man, or you can head up to the Isle of Skye, right? It's far enough away, but it's beautiful and different.
Yeah.
It's not physical. It's just changing what you are, your everyday viewpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, it really expands someone's brain, doesn't it? I don't get why people don't travel, but again, you can't really tell.
The other part to it is I focus too much on the activity, and you just raised something that's extremely important, at least to me, and that is the people. The people. When I go down and like when I was in Chile, I keep coming up because that's the most recent. Well, I'd say the same thing for Scotland, but in Chile, the people there were really concerned about their environment. They were proud of their environment. They're proud of the mountains that are around them, right? Their stewardship of that land was important to them. And you could see it, the way they operated, how they recycled stuff, how they talked about it. It's like, okay, this is good. That, part of going to places like this was to expand your own skill set and perspectives. And
Yeah.
you expand those by listening to others and understand their perspective. So travel to me is not only the places you go to, but it's the people that you engage with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which is very true. And yeah, I love it. I love traveling. It's definitely one of my hobbies.
Passion.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you.
Um, Across your 5 books, just as we approach home stretch now, thanks again for coming on. It's been really eye-opening for myself personally, and I also hope that for you listening, guys, let us know what you think so far. If you have any questions for Thom, just pop it in the comment section below, and I will make sure to get those across to him. So, across your 5 books, Thom, from memoir to poverty to poetry, what's the common thread, which is the unshakable truth that ties them all together across your 5 books?
One of the things that I've had to do is that I've had to explore myself in a deeper way, right? And as I've done that, I've learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about a lot I don't know, right? But I've also learned that you don't necessarily have to have the answers to things because some problems aren't solvable, right? Having cancer is not solvable. And so you have to then figure, okay, then how do I accept these things? How do I accept things in my life? Everyone has a cross, right? Everyone has a cross that they have to bear. Whether it's a sibling who's needs help, right? Define it any way you want. Or even a partner who needs help. Everyone has a cross, and it's how you accept that then dictates your next steps. And so I think the theme that I that's important through all these things is the notion of acceptance. There's a notion that acceptance is not a sign of weakness, but it's the opposite. And that the deeper I dug into myself in terms of learning about myself, whilst I didn't find answers, what I did find was an ability to be at peace with the questions. Because people oftentimes they're afraid of the questions. I don't want to go there because we're going to get into territory and you're going to ask me something I don't even want to address or even acknowledge. All right. And so you don't go there. I've learned that, well, let's face it, nothing can be worse than you're dying. So what kind of question are you going to ask me that's going to be more difficult to answer than that? Right.
Yeah.
And so the deeper I've gone, the more I've come I've come to an acceptable level of peace with the questions that are being posed. And so hopefully that comes through in the books. They're all different. Each one's got a little different twist to it. But I like your question. It boils down to acceptance, right? How you do it.
Guys, you need to first of all accept yourself, accept the situation, especially if it's a situation where you can't really change it, right? I think we should only be worried about the things that we have control over. Just like I'm trying to tie it now to when you were talking about the fact that you had control over, the places you travel to. You had control over your boat and your equipment, how you train for your escapades and things like this. Until cancer came, you were like, what do I do here? And then it now comes to accepting. So I'm encouraging you today to, have a copy of those books. Some of those books, we're going to put the links in the description of the video, is in the description below there. Check it out. Grab copies of some of those books, the ones that interest you, and you're going to learn about Thom's journey. You're going to learn about his life and his experiences and everything else in between. I'm sure. So, to the last question, this is the last question, Thom, before you sort of give us your pattern talk. So, for anyone listening today, then who is facing any personal storms, whether it's illness, loss, or fear, what is your most heartfelt message of hope to them?
We don't get a chance to choose how long we live. We don't. but we do get to choose the depth in which we live. And I think that's important, right? It's what's your purpose and how you accomplish, and what's your intention? Those are two things. One's a strategy and one's a tactic, right? Both important, but it's the fullness of life that's most important, because as everyone hears it. What's the last thing someone's going to think about just before they die when they're on their deathbed, right? It's going to be what I didn't do. Not, the fact that I made a stupid mistake. No, you're not going to remember that. You're going to remember what you didn't do. And regrets, you don't need them if you live life fully, right? It's as simple as that for me.
Thank you so much, Thom, for showing us how to choose courage over comfort and meaning over fear and adventure over limitations, no matter the season that we're in.
If you go to my website, Living Life While Dying, on it are I write articles. I write articles every other day. I go through Substack, and so I write there. I've got a couple of different series that I have. The one I'm just launching this week is, I think it's interesting. We all have our favorite songs, right? Or favorite music. They mean something to us. I'm picking 5 that when I'm a child of the 70s, right? So I'm picking 5 that resonated with me, and I still love listening to them. But their meaning has changed for me now that I have this disease, right? And so it's kind of talking about how it changed. So anyway, I'm just using that as an example. So Substack, my website, and Amazon. And, the website will tell you all the things you just mentioned. When's my next podcast? Where am I giving my next talk? What are the articles that have popped up that you may have missed? And then always go on the Substack to find out what I'm currently doing.
Yeah. Great. Guys, you've heard it all from Thom, guys. Thom's journey, words, and wisdom don't stop here. Please don't forget to grab the latest book, Living While Dying, and explore his word of resilience, adventure, and hope. And the website is, again, livinglifewhiledying.com. It is in the description below. Remember that life's most uncertain moments often lead to its most extraordinary chapters. If today's conversation moved you, of course, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the podcast, and share this episode, because everyone deserves a reminder to live fully, to love fiercely, and to lean into the unknown. Until next time, guys, don't forget to stay curious, stay courageous, and keep writing your own remarkable story. Take care, goodbye, and God bless. Bye.